Hi, and welcome to Hacking TV. This week, what the Democratic Convention learned from YouTube. There were lots of video clips, and other than the big name stemwinders, the speeches were as short as vlog posts.
Next, on to the Olympics, where NBC plans to stream a staggering 4,500 hours of programming.
Then we'll find the juicy bits in what Amazon, Facebook, and Verizon told investors last week. I'm Saul Hansel.
And I'm Steve Rosenbaum.
And this is
Hacking TV. Excellent. Welcome, Saul. Greetings.
Greetings. So what did we learn from, well, let's start with the most recent one, the Democratic Convention and how they used video.
So first of all, I just like to see the Republicans and the Democrats just switch back and forth with the 10 o'clock hour. We could do the Republicans next week and then the Dems a week. We could just really just have until November, 10 o'clock every night.
Well, one of the things I don't think gets enough credit is how much direct access people have had to the candidates this year. We had lots of interviews and candidate forums, and the TV commercials have been more or less in the back seat. Now Trump is making noises like he doesn't even like the 3 debates they have planned. But I think that you're absolutely right. Let's just put him on TV. But then again, Trump's on Twitter 24/7, so.
On TV, or maybe just a mud pit. Maybe we could just fill a pit up with mud. And anyway, in any case,
that Hillary white dress may not work on in a mud pit. Anyway,
I thought the white dress was surprisingly fabulous. I got to say, but so let's just start at the very top. Boy, the Democrats were, they pulled out all the stops. Just from a television producer standpoint, that was a very, very tightly produced, well-produced, efficient, theatrical, well-delivered. Everybody was on their mark. Everybody was on prompter. It was a great television show.
It was all of that, and it was also very well written. Every last widow and orphan and person who, sob story, which was the first half of every night, dispense with everything, started with a dramatic sentence. Every single one of them, somebody with the same voice, I think, went and rewrote everybody's speech except for Joe Biden's. And they all had like 10 themes that were like a fugue. I mean, it was like a Sondheim musical where the themes just kept coming back up over and over.
The only thing they couldn't fix was the cutaways to Bernie's face. Because, boy, he did his job and he delivered the message, but he could not sit there in the auditorium and play act happy. He was just one sad puppy.
I don't know if he's ever happy.
Perhaps not, but he was deeply unhappy. In any case.
Right, he was unhappy, and, a bunch of people in the California delegation thought that it was their job to protest no matter what happened. But
so let's get to the numbers. Let's dig into the numbers.
Well, I want to say one more thing, right? Just as I said at the top, I have this theory that the whole thing learned a lot from YouTube, right? There were all these YouTube type videos, right? I mean, it wasn't just the one big video, to introduce the candidate. There were, funny videos with what's his name, Gollumsby, the economic guy, and they had the fight song video and all this other stuff, and then everything else was really short. I mean, it felt like the people who were running it were trying to make it like a playlist on YouTube, and I think it's interesting and probably effective. Okay.
Yeah.
That said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I agree.
That said, this was not streamed, right? I mean, everybody was talking about it. YouTube had it live, ABC News had a deal with Facebook. And when you look at the numbers, almost everybody watched it on TV, right? The peak viewing was Hillary's speech. And this was, according to YouTube, that was their peak viewing time. And they had 250,000 simultaneous viewers, whereas the most but not all of the networks combined, according to Nielsen, had 30 million viewers. So less than 1% of the audience was on YouTube. Facebook released a bunch of numbers that are entirely uncomparable to anything, but don't look like they had an order of magnitude any bigger. What do you make of that?
So two things. First of all, we all know that generally speaking, the numbers are kind of fictitious anyway.
Right.
I mean, so now you add internet numbers. So how many people, for example, were looking at Facebook on their phone while their TV was on? Lots. Me.
You were looking at Facebook Live, or you were reading what people were talking about?
Yeah, that stuff. And then I was looking at Twitter, and then I was looking at Snapchat, and then I was looking back at Facebook, and then I was looking at the TV, and then I was putting the phone down and picking up my iPad, and then I mean, you know, that's the world we live in. How do you rate that? I mean, am I 5 viewers watching, or am I 2, or am I 1?
That the industry will spend 15 years of committees to go do that. That's a interesting question, right? And if you're watching 4 things at once, who gets credit for, you know, your attention?
Yeah.
Do we?
And I also I am annoyed by the media reporting that Trump's speech had more viewers than Hillary's speech, as if my viewing of the Trump speech was somehow a tacit endorsement of his candidacy. Like, that just makes me spittingly angry.
Although, look, we know that car crashes are a lot more attractive on local news than flower gardens. It doesn't mean that people like car crashes better.
But you got to admit, the reporting of the ratings was reported like it was a popularity contest, and somehow
I don't read those kinds of reports because they're, you know, stupid people bore me. So I just skip past that.
Yeah, all right. Well, in any case, so we know that the shift to, you know, web media did not arrive the night of either Hillary or Trump's speech.
No, which, that said, lots of people I know and lots of, you know, went back and, you know, there's a multiplier effect. So somebody says, oh, Michelle's speech was really good. Oh, I didn't see that. Let me go on YouTube. And I think that people at this point know it's there for them. I mean, I ended up deciding my favorite way to watch was the actual official DNC app, because it didn't have all those chattering people, none of whom said anything that I thought was interesting. So I just used the DNC feed and watched the stage.
I didn't know there was a DNC feed.
And it was on my, you know, it was on my phone, and you could get it on the computer. And I suppose I could have gone to C-SPAN. But anyway, we very slick. I think that you see that, I mean, the Hillary Clinton people make really good web videos. I mean, they've done really nice things editing Donald Trump's most offensive 10 things 62 different ways. And I think we'll see how effective that is.
If only they had more material to work with there.
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe they need to, like, make up something about his, like, connection to, like, Soviet spies or something.
Yeah, no. Look, the thing that I find scary is it seems like all the amplification of all the horrible stuff seems to somehow be accruing to his notoriety in a way that I do not understand. But, you know.
Look, if you're going to sit there and do things that nobody ever does, like insult the mother of someone who got killed working in the U.S. Army fighting for us, right? There are pretty much, you know, whatever rules you have in politics, that's against them. And he, you know, so you have to write about that, you know, or do you?
And yet, you know, I know people that are lifelong military and Trump supporters who that did not, you know, turn them against him. So, you know, let's move on to the Olympics, because it'll be a more happy conversation, and I don't think I have anything really useful to add to our listeners other than my kind of simmering unhappiness about where this all is. And that's, you know,
and you know, up and down the podcast aisles, you know, there are many people who talk about politics. We can talk about politics because we like it, but also mainly about video, which is a tool of the Democrats, and Trump doesn't seem to do much web video. He just tweets. All right, the Olympics, 45 billion hours on every network that NBC and Comcast owns. plus VR, plus 4K, plus sock puppets and God knows what. And
so let me make a prediction here. 4 years ago,
yes, the USA will win a lot of medals. No, go ahead.
no, there's always been this promise that digital was going to make the Olympics a different viewing experience, and China in particular was problematic because of the time difference. And there was a whole issue of, do we present it live on the line or do we delay it online, and why are we delaying it and all that. I think that I'm willing to go out here on a limb and say, Zika notwithstanding, Rio is going to be the Olympics where fully on demand, audience controlled consumption really makes a meaningful difference in the experience.
In what way? What are people, going to do this year that they didn't do 4 years ago?
So a couple things. You're going to see stories develop and evolve that some of them are going to be produced by NBC and distributed via social, and some of them are going to be entirely ancillary stories that have a life of their own, and all NBC needs to do is essentially get out of the way and let the social media pick them up and lift them to the stratosphere.
Right, although they don't, from the Olympics Inc. and NBC Inc., that's just promotion. They don't, they make their money if you watch the stream that has 1 billion car commercials in it.
Their money is not I'm interested in the changing behavior of an on-demand audience. That's what I'm interested in.
So somebody went and did a survey and found 23% of the people said they thought they would watch live events through streaming. And the article I read portrayed that as low. I thought that was a very high number, clearly a lot higher than watched live through the conventions. But the difference is that, at least in the U.S., right, we're in the same time zone as Rio, more or less, and so there are going to be 50 events going on simultaneously. So streaming is sort of the only way you're going to get to watch the obscure sports live.
Yeah, but I think it's more than that. I really do. I think it's, it's going to be people at work with their phone in their hand. It's going to be people on, keep in mind, television is still in two places. It's in the bedroom and it's in the living room, right? I mean, certainly my office is near a great big outdoor park that has a huge screen, and there will be people gathered in that park pretty much all the time watching whatever sport is being broadcast. But I think part of what people forget about mobile shifting everything is it's personal. So, you can sit in your office and pick up your phone and watch the Olympics.
And if you're a shot put person, you get to watch the shot put or whatever it is. What's different about it, right? If you remember the heyday of the Olympics, at least my heyday of the Olympics was ABC and Jim McKay and all of that. They had sports, but they were making it into a sort of one of those everybody's watching TV dramas, and you had lots of emotion, and they had narrative arc, and they were using the medium that they had. In a fragmented world, the narratives are what you mentioned, the things that build around the sides through viral stuff, but you don't have that sort of shared packaged experience, for better or worse.
Yeah, but you could say that about television broadly, right? I mean that
certainly can.
I mean, House of Cards, House of Cards famously, put everything online the same day, and there was no cliffhanger, there was no water cooler, but I think the Olympics are going to be great. And I think whoever was wise enough to schedule 2 political campaigns in the Olympics over a 3-week summer, back to back 3-week is, people are gonna flock to the Olympics just as a palate cleanser. God willing, Trump won't get on a plane and fly to Rio, and we'll just drown out for a week all the political nonsense with just some terrific sports. That would be great. And I'm not even a sports guy, and I'm excited about it.
And one of the things, like the World's Fair, people use the Olympics to play with the new toys. So there's going to be a lot of, virtual reality, 360 production. Except I just read it's all going to be one day delayed. So you have a choice of watching two-dimensional today or three-dimensional tomorrow. I wonder how many people are going to want to watch in the goggles a day late. But
all right, let's move on to the data that's coming out of these Q2 reports, because there's a lot there.
Okay, so Apple, which doesn't have data, but Tim Cook in his conference call was asked about tvOS and Apple TV, and he kept saying, think of it as a foundation that we'll be able to build on over time, saying you ain't seen nothing yet. And people are getting a little skeptical that there is a great thing other than, it's an okay set-top box and it's part of the app ecosystem. But he keeps promising. And I'm a big believer in the long run, but they've been doing this for a while.
I think they made two terrible mistakes. Two potentially terminal mistakes.
What are the two terminal mistakes?
So, if you look at what they did in music, you have to remember they came into an industry that was terribly damaged. They had Steve Jobs, who was a force of nature. They were able to go in and demand terms. And because they owned the device, and because they had Steve Jobs, and because the music industry was fractured and screwed up, they were able to essentially become the customer relationship. Front end, your relationship is with Apple. You can buy it through iTunes, but at the end of the day, the labels lost control of the distribution. Well done for Apple, poorly done for the labels. Flash forward, Apple tries to take the same playbook and play it against the TV industry. Only two problems. One, now everyone knows the playbook because it's public. So they know what they're up to, which is to go from selling networks to selling shows, to lower the cost per show to 99 cents. I mean, you know what they're going to try and do. And so Apple comes in and tries to play the same Steve Jobsian, we're Apple and we have access to all these people and we want the rules our way. And according to the journalist TikTok, which I thought was really well written, everybody kind of went, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, and just the Journal had wonderful reporting. I mean, we sort of knew this, but more in depth on the battle between Eddie Q and the networks. And basically, the story was they decided that the right price was $30, and they were just going to buy as much TV as they could for a $30 cable bundle. They wanted two things. They wanted live streaming of the main cable stations, plus they wanted on demand of everything. Right? So all your shows, especially your hit shows, on demand. And let's give Apple some credit. That's a good product. That is an improvement over what you can get now through Comcast or Time Warner, which is all very complicated. But if you say, all right, if I subscribe to CBS, I get all the CBS shows and that's the right product. And $30 is a lovely price. And the TV industry said, you're not giving us enough money. And the deal was not done.
Right, but I'm saying they said something different, which is, yeah, how about if we do a deal with Roku and with our own app? I think they saw Apple coming.
Well, right. They also, it's true that they wanted an Apple ID sign-on, but here's the thing, right? If you're Time Warner, you're already selling through a distributor. You're selling through Comcast, right? And you're selling now through Sling TV. So the question there, it's pretty clear to me that we know what the business model is now. It's just who's going to thrive, right? You're going to have a bunch of channels that will be sold both a la carte and in bundles, and the consumer will get to pick between bundles and a la carte and put together stuff. And the price is going to go down slowly over time. The ARPU, as we say, average revenue per user.
All right, so
we know that already.
Let's move on.
And you're going to stop watching on a set-top box, and you're going to watch on an Apple TV, through a cable set-top box, and you watch through some other gizmo.
Let's move on from Apple, because there's the news out of the Q2 numbers. To me, there was all kinds of So first of all, let's talk about Facebook.
What jumped out at you about Facebook?
Holy shit. They are just killing it. And the numbers are extraordinary, and they're just at the very beginning, right? I mean, as a rather regular Facebook user, I don't see many ads. I mean, I don't think I've seen
I don't think they want you to. I think they're playing around with how do we make ads so much like content that you don't feel like you're seeing ads.
Fine with me, as long, and as an advertiser.
If they make you happy and you get to I mean, this is the whole thing about advertising. If you can go to the damn marketers and say, be so interesting that people want to hear what you have to say, life's good.
And I'm not going to lie, I really did love, what Zuckerberg had to say about video.
And what did he say? The video is we see the world as video first, with video at the heart of all of our apps and services. That is quite a change from a company that was about status updates and text.
Yeah.
What's interesting, and we'll come to Verizon in a second, but what's going on here, right, is all of these companies that have some claim on people's time and their data are trying to be the way you watch video. Facebook, because they have so much of people's time, has an important play. YouTube did its user gen thing, but you have Verizon saying, fundamentally, we're a cell phone company, and cell phones are going to be how people watch a lot of video, as per what you said. So we want to use all of our data about everybody that we have from the phones to build the world's best advertising and TV business. And Facebook is doing that, and Google is doing that, and Comcast and the people who are in the TV business are doing that. And it's a really interesting battle for who's actually going to be the path to watching TV. And Apple and stuff, right?
Although, to be fair, I mean, Facebook, though they're talking about being video-centric, isn't really talking about anything that looks like shows yet.
Right. Well, except if you want to consider the live stream of the Democratic Convention a show, that's direct competition between all of the platforms. And anybody can buy sports rights, right? So on the Verizon call, their earnings call, they were saying, we're not done with making acquisitions around video, and we want to buy a lot more stuff because there's what did they say, $160 billion addressable market that they want an increasing share of. So, and they want sports rights and other things. So we're at the beginning of a big shift.
Well, I mean, part of it is Verizon's gun is loaded with my monthly, unbelievably high cell phone bill, right? I mean, at some point, you'd like to think that $300 a month or whatever it is between a bunch of phones that I'm paying for starts to, I start to find a way to log into Wi-Fi more. I need less data. I want a smaller plan. I mean, that can't last forever, right? I mean, phone bills have to go down.
You would have said that about cable bills, and for the last 50 years, they only went up.
I just want to say we should pause for a moment, because the fact that you said that, and I can't disagree with you, makes me really sad.
But here's the other thing to think about with what Verizon has. They know where you are. They know where you sleep. They know where you work. They know where you play. They know every store you go into. The stream of your location data, never mind anything you do with the phone, but properly analyzed, is incredibly powerful. They probably can tell which theater in the multiplex you're sitting in when you're watching a movie.
All right, so I'm going to call bullshit on that.
Okay.
So here's why. Because Verizon's not a tech company. They're not a software company.
Oh, so that's
hold on.
Their
hold
data
on.
stream.
So hold on. So they have that stream, but they've never been able to do anything with it. And now they own AOL, which is supposedly an ad tech aggregation, and now they own Yahoo, which is an ad tech aggregation. But like, to me, without somebody like Marissa, who's a hardcore developer, like I just have trouble believing that Verizon, with all the money that they have, is going to be able to turn that information into an actionable product.
I think that there is a easy bet. I mean, I don't bet on the big companies, but that data, and they're not the only ones with that data. So if you keep your Facebook app on, your Google app on, your Snapchat app on, they have that data stream too, right? So it's not as exclusive as Verizon might think it is, but just think about the data flowing from your location stream is going to be very powerful in the advertising business, and somebody is going to go figure it out. And Verizon, like all these big companies, they should be the leader, and they're probably not going to.
So let's talk about Google. I know I'm supposed to call it Alphabet, but I just can't.
Nobody does.
I'm going to call it Google.
Nobody does.
All right. So Google's numbers were mixed. They saw growth. There was a happy story, but there was also a downward trend on cost per click revenue, which
has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, but was more pronounced in this last Q2 number. I mean, so you're seeing advertising shift, and while video is picking up some of the slack, not all of it.
That's interesting. I mean, I've tried to look at those numbers in Google. I didn't look at them this time, but it's always been a little hard to tease out cost per click across their different, their video, their display, and their search businesses. Meanwhile, Facebook
some
ad prices are going up and up and up.
Some feisty blogger wrote a piece for Forbes about it. I don't know, some guy, I don't know, name was Rosenbaum, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I took a
pretty. What did that blog post, that insightful, fascinating blog post, have to say?
Essentially, that cost per click is going down, and video's not rising. Video's not rising fast enough to make up the entire coming gulf. And
therefore, what doom and gloom did this?
No.
Fascinating article.
No. Doom and gloom was the New York Times numbers and the Guardian numbers, which were doom and gloom.
Yeah, Guardian. Too bad about the Guardian. And so we live in interesting times, right? I mean,
Chinese proverb, right?
So it would be.
Yeah. Look, to me, it's as simple as this. I don't know why people scratch their head about this. Advertising was valuable because it was scarce. You could ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox. People got home, they had dinner, they turned the TV on from 7:30 or 8 until 10 o'clock. There was a tiny little window when you could reach all the people by buying the 4 networks. That was an incredibly valuable mass media opportunity. Flash forward, everyone's on their phone all day, they're looking at video all the time, there's more networks, there's more choices, the audience is fragmented, they're harder to find. Like net media becomes cheaper because there's more of it and it's less valuable. That's where it is.
The other thing going on simultaneous to that is, in the old world, the people selling the media knew why it was valuable, right? I have this reach, I have these demographics. In the new world, where the advertiser may well know more about the audience member than the publisher, I can go buy a bunch of cheap impressions on lottery sites or whatever the lowest price is. But if I have retargeting data, or I know that the individuals I'm trying to buy are valuable to somebody, I can get a bargain because I know that there are diamonds in all that crap, and I can just buy those. And so there's a shift in who knows what the value is, which doesn't help the publishers then.
I'd like to go to my media buyer and say, listen, how about this? I'll double the CPM, the cost per thousand I'm willing to pay you, as long as you can promise me you're not going to sell me any robots or fake clicks. I'll just double it.
That is an interesting challenge right now. And
So are we going to watch the Olympics and we'll talk about it next week? Is that the plan?
We will watch. I mean, I don't even know how many devices I need to watch all of them. And, you know, they're, again, if I want to watch them delayed, they're in 4K. But how are they getting the 4K? The Japanese are doing an 8K, and they're going to downshift the resolution for 4K for the U.S.
I'm going to go to my corner bar every night and drink beer and watch the Olympics on a flat screen up above the bar thing.
Okay. Well, to the Olympics, and until next week.
Hack on. See you next week.